Hello guys, today we are going to make this cute little substance, which is forest moss. I have found this reference here on the right, and in the left of the window we have the final result. Okay, I have added some variations to the green color of the moss, but this is not necessary if you want to achieve just the green moss. Anyway, let's get started. Here we are inside Substance Designer. As you can see, my window setup is a bit different. I like to keep my 2D view in the left of the window and my 3D view a little bit larger here in front of my eyes. Then I like to keep my texture or noises here in the bottom left, because when you make a material or a substance, in this case, you actually just need to take a look at the shapes of the noises. You don't need the name, okay? Let's make a new material. So we go into File, New Substance. We can call it Forest Moss. The size mode will be relative to parent. The texture will have a resolution of 2K, and the format it's okay relative to parent. We are going to use an empty template, so we can make our custom outputs, our texture packing, and we have all the freedom that comes with that. I usually use a template that has a base material inside, but for the purpose of this tutorial we are going to make that now. So this is pretty easy. You just need to press spacebar and then search for base. You will find the base material here, and here it is. If you click with your right mouse button over it, you can activate the view in 3D view, so we can see the material inside our preview cube. Now I like to use usually a sphere 2 tiles, okay, but we are going to switch to preview mode often, because sometimes you can't see the proper shape of the substance only using one preview, so it's okay for us to start with a sphere. Going to the attributes of the base material, and we are going to switch the material preset to dielectric, because the moss is mostly non-reflective. I usually activate the height and the ambient occlusion, and I will show you why. Okay, so we have the base material set up, and I will show you why I do this kind of setup with height and ambient occlusion. So we load in a random noise. I usually add a level node. This is cool because we can just then hook up the last level inside our textures inputs, and we are free to make everything in the left of our graph and just connect the end one time to the levels, and then the last level node is going to connect with all other kinds of inputs of the base material. So for the ambient occlusion, you want of course an ambient occlusion node, so you press the spacebar and type ambient occlusion. That's it. We're just going to input our height map inside the ambient occlusion, and here you can see what it is doing, and then hook up the output to the input of ambient occlusion in the base material. I usually do this because I want to have a grayscale visual reference of my height map. It is just going to give you more clues on what you are doing with your heights. Okay. Then one last thing before we can start to properly work with our material. In the 3D view, go into Materials, Settings, click on Default, Definitions, Physically Metallic Roughness, and switch to Tessellation. Okay. Then you want inside the properties, you want to scale up the scale, and the tessellation factor I'm going to crank it up to 10, so we have more details over our heights. This is a good point to start with. Okay, so maybe you want to transform it to a template. Okay, in a future tutorial we are going to see how to do that. For now we are good to go. Let's start to make our material. Okay guys, we now have to make the base of the material. So I have my reference in my other screen, which is this. As you can see, we have a lot of clumps of moss, and we want to achieve that for the base. So we can just start to wander inside the noises library, and if you pay attention to the shapes, you are going to find that the cells noise, it's going to be your thing. This is the cells noise. If we input directly the cells node inside our material inputs, this is the result for now. So we make a couple of versions of the same noise. The bottom noise is going to have a lower scale, like this, and the upper noise is going to have a bigger scale, so we have more detailed clamping, more small clamps, and then we are going to blend the two of it with a blend node. So just click in the bottom node, and if you click inside this gray icon with two squares, it is blend. So you hook up the other blend. This is the result without blending mode. So here in the settings, you want to find the blending mode that suits your needs. As you can see, we have already end up with a freaking cool texture that we can't use at all, but that's cool. If you end up with some cool materials, just save it, because it can be useful in later projects. So this is cool. Okay, let's continue to blend the textures with different modes. I want the little clamps to be sitting above the bigger clamps. I think multiply is going to be our thing. Just play a little bit with the opacity of the blend, and I think I will keep this blending mode. Yes, I like it. Okay guys, we can call the first noise base done, and now we can move to the second noise that we are going to mix with this noise to achieve better variations. If you select with dragging over the three nodes, You can then group it inside a frame, and we are going to call this frame here in the properties base noise, or clumps in this case. It is more specific. This is cool because we can then move all the canvas with the nodes inside, and everything is going to be pretty ordered. And you want to achieve that because sometimes you will end up with a lot of nodes, and you want to keep in mind to take all that stuff ordered. Now I want to add some more organic details over my base clumps. Make a new blend. We switch the mode to screen, and I want to add some more organic details. So let's look at our noises and find something very organic. I like the microscope view, and this is going to give our material a very organic look. So let's start by mixing a couple of microscope views inside the blend. So we add the blend with the screen blending mode, and you can duplicate the microscope view, hook it on the upper node. Then if you double click inside the node that you want to preview, the node will appear in the 2D view, and if you single click in the node that you want to tweak, the preview node will remain the same, and you can tweak the settings of the node which is selected. We are going to add some disorder. We are mixing this map and this map, and this is the result. This is cool. I want to make another blend, and for this blend we are going to transform this same texture, pressing spacebar and typing transform 2D, and we can input the noise, input the foreground of the blend. Then same thing, double click on the last blend and single click on the transformation, so we can play with the transformation and take a look at the result. Okay, for now the result is not showing nothing because we have left the blending mode to copy. We have to switch that to a screen, and now you can see the effects, and then we can continue to tweak. Okay, I like this kind of noise. As you can see, we have big details and smaller details of the same noise, and this is also efficient because we are not making another microscope view, but we are transforming it inside our transformation 2D, and it is somehow more efficient. Now we can start to take a look at the result with our last blend inside our 3D view. Okay, this is cool, but I don't think that this blend is going to suit our purposes, so let's play with the blends. Soft light is the way to go for now, so let's see. Yes, it is cool. We want to lower our opacity because we want a subtle effect, so we just play with the opacity levels until we end up with a good base. Okay, this is cool, but it's a little bit bigger than I thought, so let's go again in our microscope view noise, and then we can scale the noise to, let's say, 50, and the other noise to 60. Okay, that's better. Let's move on. We can select all these nodes and frame, and we are going to call this organic details. We want also to add another noise. Okay, for this last detail layer we want to make something really noisy, so we are going to load a moisture noise and a grunge map. Let's see, let's find some. Oh, this is cool. This is a grunge map that I like a lot, so we can use that. Let's see, let's mix those two noises together. We are going to seek the best blending mode. Soft light is going to make us happy. Okay, this is cool, but I don't really like all that range that the map has. As you can see, is all black to all white. So to fix that, we just need to select the node, press spacebar, and add an histogram range node. Press the D button in the keyboard, so this histogram is going to dock inside our input of the blend. This is cool for making all things ordered. So double click on the blend and let's tweak the histogram. Let's play a bit with the range. Okay, this is better. I will do the same for the bottom moisture noise. So histogram range and D to dock. Let's see. Okay, we want to tweak a bit these values. So as you can see, the texture is more lighter. We can move this back over and we can duplicate our blend and mix them. This is the last base details noise applied directly to the material, and this is very cool. I have a version of it saved inside my folder because this can be pretty good for a dirt type start point. Okay, so as you can see, I have ordered more my graph. I have made the last base details inside his own canvas, and this is pretty ordered. So let's start to play a little bit with the blending mode until we can see a nice difference inside our material. This is cool. Usually when you make a substance you want some variations over it, okay, because otherwise the material is going to be boring. Okay, that's the reason because I have made a yellow variation in my substance. I realized that this grunge map is a little too much harsh, so I'm going to pass it inside the blur. HQ grayscale. With the D, I'm going to dock that blur, and I'm going to play a little bit with the intensity. Okay, this is better. Point something with a subtle effect is going to be okay. This is cool. This is going to be the fun part because we are going to simulate that strands effect over our moss. As you can see in our reference, if I have it open. Okay, let's bring it in the first screen. As you can see, the moss has a little bit of fury like shape, so we are going to try to achieve that with all the tools that we have inside Substance Designer, because we want the material to be procedural, of course. Okay, let's start with making the strand. This is an easy task. We just need to load a gradient. Gradient radial is cool, and then also another gradient. You just need to press spacebar and then type gradient, and boom, everything is here. Gradient axial reflected is going to make us happy. And then you want also another gradient. I will show you why in a bit. So, first thing, let's blend the first two gradients together with the multiply type of blending. Then we want to double click on the blend and single click on the axial reflection. We have these cool two dots and we can edit the gradient in real time. Okay, that's cool. I'm going to make it a little bit thin. And let's blend it again with the other gradient. Okay, we can switch these to multiply too. We basically want the strand to appear from the center and keep on going to the top. This is cool. I'm going to make this a little bit thinner, so we have just this kind of blade. And now we are going to deform this precise blade with the warp node. Maybe a directional warp is going to be okay. And for the intensity input, if you want to use maybe a Gaussian noise, and this is kind of the result that we get. I am just going to scale a bit the noise down and crank up the directional warp like to 25. And let's play also more with our scale of the Gaussian noise, and with the disorder we can achieve different shapes. Okay, this is cool, but I want to make 3 variations, so I just select the last directional warp node and type Ctrl D to duplicate 3 times that node. And we can just change the warp angle to achieve different shapes. Okay, that is cool. So we have these 3 variations, and we are going to hook these 3 up into a splatter circular. Press space and type splatter, and that's it, splatter circular. We want to input 3 noises or 3 base nodes. So if we go into the first settings of the splatter circular, you can find the pattern tab, and inside the pattern you want to select image input and crank up the value to 3, so we can input all our 3 strands. Now we can increase the pattern amount. I'm going to keep it to the max, 64. And now we can start to play with the settings. I am going to increase the ring amounts to something like 5. I also want to increase the size or the scale of the strands. Let's increase the size also, and the size random a bit. This is cool. We increase the scale randomness, and we increase the scale by ring number, so we end up with small strands near the perimeter and bigger strands near the center. This is cool. Then we go into the spread in the position tab, and we can set the spread to a lower value. We just want to play with the angle randomness, and if we go into the rotation tab, we can add rotation randomness. but I am not really happy with this result, so I'm going to tweak strand scale. I increase this to 4, and this is giving me a better result. So let's crank a little bit down the spread, and for this purpose I will pass this noise again into a blend, and I'm going to blend this with another gradient, so we can just duplicate the axial gradient that we have made before, and we are going to multiply again this gradient. Let me just rotate the splatter circular to a nice upwards rotation with the ring rotation. Okay, and now we can play with this. We end up with something like this. I'm going to dock the gradient because we don't need that anymore. That's the last placement, and we are going to duplicate a couple of times these last nodes so we can make our variations. Change a bit the radiuses and the pattern amount, so we end up with something somehow different. Also with this one, I will lower the pattern amount, I will add some radius changes, like this is going to be a small clump. So we have this, and this one. Now come the fun part. So we have made these little clumps, and we want to hook all these 3 final clumps inside a tile sampler. So again, in the pattern settings, you want to set the pattern input to the main input and increase the input number to 3. And now we can connect our clamps. I'm going to increase the X amount and Y amount to the max and just increase the scale a bit for now. As you can see, we can't use this map as it is because we want to drive the direction and the size and the scale and everything else with our base clamps. So we want to make the clamps follow the shapes of this map. The trick here is to use a vector map input, which is here, and drive this with this map. But a vector, as you know, is made up of 3 values, so 3 float values make 1 vector, and the normal map is going to do what we want. A normal map, as you may know, is a vector map. In fact, the RG and B colors are just values indication for a vector to be made. We connected the output to the vector map input, and now we can start to play again with the settings. If we go into the rotation, as you can see, there it is, the vector map multiplier, so we can play with that. You can see that the clamps are rotating. Then we are going to rotate again using a 90 degrees value, and as you can see, all the clamps are pointing outwards using our normal maps. So for now we are happy with that. We are going to add some more randomness in a bit, but before I want to blend the maps so we can see the result inside our 3D view. The soft light is going to make us happy again. And yes, this is cool. With the opacity set to 0.09, we achieve somehow the effect that we want, and we can start to play with the randomness and the settings of the tile sampler. Let's see. Let's add some more randomness to the size, maybe using the scale random. Okay, that's better. And we are also using the scale vector map input. We are happy with the rotation. I'm just going to add somehow a random rotation. And in the last part of the settings, in the color, we want to add a color parameterization multiplier. I'm going to use the scale, and I'm going to increase a little bit the value. What this setting is doing is, if the scale of the input is small, the opacity is going to be lower. If the scale is bigger, the opacity will be more, okay? And this is the result that we came out with. Okay guys, for this part it's all. In the next part we are going to make the albedo map of the material and bring the moss to life, adding some colors and some other cool effects. But for now that's all. So I hope you liked it. If you have questions, just ask me inside the comments, and if you liked it, you know what to do. Let me know if you need something else, and we see you in the next tutorial. Bye guys!